lane is, bro. Can he do it? Or is VortiX going to force a 7th game? Let's find out.
Spawning in on the right side, it is going to be LucifroN playing as the Mongols in blue, and on the other side, Khan, what are you doing? Okay, he's fine, don't worry. Oh, so other side is VortiX in Holy Roman Empire with red.
Yes. So VortiX, first of all, we got to talk about like the generation, some loose tree lines, but some natural defenses. First thing I'm thinking is if LucifroN has any option to try and like outpost him. I feel like this would be an awkward map to outpost on, though. The gold is at the back, the berries are nearby, but you're not getting that double whammy value, right? If I drop an outpost and you don't get gold and wood here. So might be better for LucifroN to just kind of play midfield and then look for a quick castle.
Yeah, indeed. And we also have to consider that if you decide to go for that double spearman opening to harass those gold miners, there is the prelate to heal them back up. So that aggression might not materialize easily here for LucifroN. The other thing that's worth noting is that this map is super open. So if we take a look, we only have a bit of a cliff formation on the northern side, but the southern part completely open. So this map is actually closer to Dry Arabia in style than it is to usual Lipony generations.
Yeah, we get that sometimes, right? There's barely any mountains. You at least get your central stealth forest. That'll keep things a little bit spicy. But yeah, overall, the interesting thing is like he's going into the racks. He's going to make that play. But I love your point about the prelate. I think this is one of the two civs that I'm not always the biggest fan of the Mongol outpost rush against. Is the HRE and the Delhi due to the fact that they have their healer boys early on. Where this can work, however, is if instead of trying to like deny resource deposits, you just create a containment field, right? You outpost network around your opponent. And where that's especially effective is if an HRE player goes for this new build, the double town center. Because when you go double town center, you munch your resources really fast. You have to remember the HRE, unlike the Chinese or like the Rus, they're not getting 20% more out of a resource deposit. They're just depleting it 40% faster, which means when you go for 2 TCs, you pick the map dry real fast, and that means you have to move out very quickly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And as you pointed out, especially on a map like Lipony, the second town center build from the HRE became more and more popular. It looks like we are going to have a tower rush coming in, though. You could see the villager already moving through, and the 2 spearmen will pop out right now. So there's going to be some aggression over here by LucifroN, but one has to wonder what he can accomplish with this one, because as you said, the gold mine is relatively safe over here, and the best thing that he could do is potentially tower one of those forests, force a relocation from VortiX.
Yeah, and he's going to do it on the safe side here. So this is at least a staging point. I don't mind this. I think like getting an initial outpost down can be nice. What I was highlighting is like you want to create a network because VortiX, it's got to be tempting. I feel like Lipony is the map I see most frequently where they go the double TC. But look at this, VortiX going in for the Minework Palace. I like to see this switch up. Arkan Chapel on this map, he wouldn't have got the Holy Trinity. He would have only been able to cover 2 resources.
Yeah, indeed, the Minework Palace could be a reaction to a potential aggression over here by the Mongols, but it also implies that he's going to play very aggressive Feudal Age over here, because it's not something that you commonly see from the HRE, but it could also be a sign that he's working towards establishing a standing army that he can then use to defend the 2,000er build. So we'll have to see what exactly he has on his mind with that Minework Palace, but as you said, given the current scenario, the Minework Palace makes a lot of sense, because worst case scenario, he makes a second prelate and he's going to buff most of his resources anyways, right?
Yeah, this is something that kind of like it routed my brain for a long time with the Arkan Chapel being dominant in the old Regnitz Cathedral build with the 3 relics. Is like realistically, you want 3 prelates when you castle boomed, right? And if you think about like on average, I'd say an Arkan Chapel maybe buffs about 30 villages, and then of course they shift away, so it doesn't keep that efficiency. Overall, just building more prelates isn't a bad choice. The interesting thing to consider in this matchup as well is what do you usually do in Arkan Chapel? You drop the Arkan, and you get your initial resources, and then you build farms around them. You're up against the Mongol player. Farms can easily be burnt down, and every time that happens, the Mongol player gets paid. So I actually prefer not relying on Arkan Chapel in this matchup. Instead, Minework Palace, and then just trying to play out into pocket ecos later.
Now the concern here with that Minework Palace is that those villagers are being harassed, and you see the tower is now being dropped as well. The tower in the north is starting to become impactful, and you see those lumberjacks could actually be exposed very soon. And this is a concerning tower rush right now for VortiX because he doesn't have a direct response to this one right now, and it looks like that second tower is going to be completed as well. So he's going to try quite a lot of resources over here, most importantly that forest to the north.
Yeah, I actually like the way LucifroN's played this. Like, he's not necessarily sacrificing his own scalability so far. It's really frustrating for VortiX to deal with. He's going to have to react with something. And looks like he is actually going to be plopping down the racks. So Man-at-Arms is a solution, an interesting choice, considering that you are going to be up against the Yam movement speed, which will allow LucifroN to freely disengage.
And he's gonna have to disengage over here. Looks like there is sufficient amount of gold for VortiX for a couple of man-arms over here. And LucifroN, not in Feudal Age yet, he's not gonna have the tools to respond to that. Once he gets to Feudal, popping out archers is an option because Feudal Age men-at-arms, especially without the range defense upgrade marching drills, they don't do really well against mass archers. And there is the emergency repairs coming in. Part of the reason why Mongols don't commonly tower rush HRE.
No, and that's why I was highlighting the idea of like containing him, just so he can't extend out past his initial resources. Also blocks him from getting relics if he's relying upon Castle Age heavily. So like overall, it tends to feel quite gambling when you get a bit too tight. The logical thought is that when you invest this much into outposts early on, you're sacrificing pastures from being built. So the only way it really works is if you get enough initial sheep. It felt like LucifroN did get a decent quantity of the initial sheep spawn, and I think that's why he was able to afford this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Looks like we have the defense upgrade in already for VortiX, going for those man-at-arms. He currently has 3 of them out on the battlefield. Another tower coming in though from LucifroN, so he's going very heavy on this aggression, and as you said, we could see a follow-up to this one in Feudal rather than just going straight to Castle Age, because his food bank isn't looking like he's thinking about going for a Castle Age after this.
No, and you see the outpost can't be constructed just yet. He hasn't cancelled it, but the spearmen aren't really going to be able to handle the man-at-arms one-on-one, and my concern is the amount being built already by VortiX. VortiX now shifting across. Looks like he's actually going out into the pocket ecos, and I love this because all the tension's on his base. He's sneaking out where LucifroN wasn't able to complete the enclosure fast enough.
9 spearmen on the battlefield right now for LucifroN. He isn't messing around. Part of the reason why his Feudal Age was rather slow is because he committed to 9 spears. There's the tower up though, and it looks like 9 spearmen. Are they gonna be sufficient to fight this? I don't think so. These are Dark Age spearmen still. Tower will be completed, but you are gonna have to sacrifice all those spears to do so.
Well, we better garrison some inside and run away with the villages. I think that's the goal. Remember, he will have the Yam movement speed. So garrison inside, arrows come out, and there's a frustration, so VortiX will have to peel back. Remember, each of these man-at-arms a heavy investment right now. But it's starting to feel like LucifroN is jumping the gun a little. We saw it in the previous game with a 15-minute GG with the English longbow rush. And once again with this, the amount of investment he's putting into the spears and the outposts, it feels like he wants this game and this series done with fast either way.
Now the good news for him is that, as you said, now he's got the Yam network, he's got all the towers up with arrow slits, and suddenly VortiX has no real access to gold, making it difficult to replenish those men-at-arms, and now the spearmen are launching an attack on those lumberjacks. Things are falling apart for VortiX, actually.
Yeah, he's finding ways to weave in. Like I said, LucifroN wants this over with fast. I'm not saying that as a negative. It's just, it's not what we're used to seeing. The Mongols don't play this way anymore. You know, you go for that initial harassment, but you're looking for scalability. LucifroN is just relentless, though. He built double the spearmen most players would have. He forced a huge investment out of VortiX, like 6, made that 7 man-at-arms. And I think he lost 1 or 2 already. Think about the cost of that. That's 120 resources per unit.
And it's not just the cost of the men-at-arms, it's also the cost of the upgrades, despite the fact that he's getting discount on the minework pass. You see, he has gotten the marching drills, he has gotten the ranged defense upgrade, melee attack as well. Big upgrades coming in. And behind this, LucifroN is using this window for what will be Castle Age eventually.
Yeah, he's starting to scale. And this is the problem with this many man-at-arms. Like, if VortiX actually even manages to get rid of all the outposts in time, he needs to push forward with them. Like, otherwise it feels like a sunken investment. You can see the garrison coming out, wasting time chasing. Like, at the end of the day, your boys don't move fast, and you're up against Yam movement speed. That's what makes this feel so problematic. I understand the necessity in VortiX's mind, but the fact that he hasn't maybe gone into a ram by now means it's a very slow siege to get rid of each of these outposts.
And the concern here for VortiX is that, okay, you take down those towers, congratulations, but what exactly are you going to do after that? Those men-at-arms, as you said, they are slow, they're clumsy. It's going to take some time until they get to LucifroN's base. Even if they do, they won't be able to do that much. And LucifroN is just going to be happily cruising towards Castle Age, starting to set up Lancers, and LucifroN is going to have a massive mobility advantage that he can exploit in Castle.
I just love that out of Lucy as well. Like, out garrisons, like start stabbing them, realizes that VortiX has to commit to the outpost either way. Yes, VortiX gets rid of it. He has continued to extend to the south side, but as you said, with LucifroN on the way to castle, VortiX is kind of stuck in no man's on this one, in limbo, really. Remember, he didn't get the Ark and Chapel, so it's not even like he's got the prelate buffs everywhere. In fact, when you look at it, he invested so much into man-at-arms, he only has one prelate in his population.
That is not good, and the problem here is that if you don't have the Talking Chapel or multiple prelates boosting your eco, suddenly it's going to be a nightmare to get to Castle Age. We're so used to HRE getting good Castle Age timings because we always see the Aachen Chapel boosting the entire eco. But when you don't have that, you see the resource bank of VortiX is looking pretty underwhelming. Obviously, part of that is that he invested into a lot of men-at-arms, but part of that is the fact that he doesn't have that boost coming into his entire eco from the Aachen Chapel or multiple prelates, and that is Castle Age coming in for LucifroN. VortiX is not far behind, but he's not gonna have a direct answer to Lancers just running past his buildings and then going straight to the eco.
And it's deceptive though, right? Like if you think about it realistically, the HRE, usually we say they're not far behind with these numbers because the HRE with the buff. But it's just one prelate, so you aren't even getting that full value, that full exploitation. Also, he's reinvesting, now going up to 10 man-at-arms. I think he has another few in the queue. This is an all-in. I think VortiX wants to end the game in Feudal. He realizes what's about to happen here. It almost feels like he, to a certain extent, allowed LucifroN to get this. Question is whether he's got enough forces to punish it. Oh, the Khan! Oh, no! He turned on him so quickly there. LucifroN getting punished. Khan is down straight away. And with the tech up, he might be a little bit exposed here. The man-at-arms now getting ready to dive in. There's plenty to die for.
I honestly feel like losing that Khan was the right thing though, because that delayed the men-at-arms. Imagine if these men-at-arms got here a little sooner, they would have been able to deny those gold miners. Still, quite a lot of delay forced over here by VortiX, but the first Lancer's out and the Town Center Fire should be able to deal with those men-at-arms.
So many glitches here. The Yam will disengage. Marching drills, it doesn't look like it's there. It really feels like these man-at-arms are moving too slow. So, not really able to kill any villagers. They are at least going to idle the eco, which is frustrating as LucifroN did just invest heavily 1,800 resources into a tech up. VortiX, though, like, what are you doing with this? Like, what's the catch-up? What's the motion in mind? I mean, the Lancers are going to trade poorly against this many man-at-arms, but they can dictate the flow. They can choose when they fight, at least if they don't get surrounded like their Khan did before them.
And you see all the man-at-arms are gone, and now it is VortiX who is stuck in this position. If he stops investing into man-at-arms, stops with this pressure, LucifroN is just going to unleash all those Lancers into his eco, but if he continues to produce these men-at-arms, he's never getting to Castle Age. You see, it looks like he's actually going double barracks though, so he wants to go heavy on this one.
Yeah, the question mark is whether he can get enough troops out now. Like, remember the double Lancer production? Look at the numbers now. They're starting to amass them, and there's not many man-at-arms in the front line. And one-on-one, they're not going to trade well. So my concern is VortiX, like, the window has closed, right? Like, your man-at-arms aren't going to reinforce the front line quick enough. Oh my god, he just calls it. He literally just calls it there. That's it. Doesn't hang around. Realizes the MAA a little bit too chunky, a little bit too slow. LucifroN will take it. 4-2.
What a win here for LucifroN. I mean, that relentless aggression with the Mongol tower rush was brutal. I mean, we looked at it and said, oh yeah, you don't really want to tower rush the Mongols that, or the HRE rather, with the Mongols that much because they can defend so well. But how about pulling 9 spearmen for that aggression, denying both of those forests, and then just using that as a complete shield, delay to get to Castle Age? That was it. And obviously, with VortiX going into the Minewerk Palace, he didn't have that economical juggernaut behind him to facilitate man-at-arms production and Castle Age at the same time. It was weird because at the end of this game, just when VortiX resigned, you could see LucifroN having a bunch of villagers run past his opponent's town center towards that tower. I wonder if that was just an accidental garrison command, and for whatever reason, they started running towards that tower. And yeah, like VortiX at that point, he was fully aware that he won't be able to stop Lancers poking his eco, and LucifroN, starting off 3-0 in this one, VortiX comes back 3-2, but LucifroN is able to close this out. Huge win for him, because obviously, he moves to the second spot in this group. Big win between the two candidates who are fighting for potentially the number 2 spot, unless one of them can upset Marine Lord.
I mean, if it sounds like I was shocked at the end, it's because I was shocked. I mean, that felt a little bit premature. LucifroN was definitely in control of that game, but VortiX, there's possibly still ways out. I think like there was maybe some frustration there. Like, you know, we've all been there. We've all experienced the frustration of Outpost Rush, and it would have caught him a little bit off guard. I think VortiX had ways out of this hole. He just reinvested in the man at arms after he lost the first battalion, and LucifroN fully capitalized on that. He understood when he could just manipulate the flow of his own base, make sure the man at arms couldn't do any chip damage to his eco, and then bided his time. And understood perfectly that VortiX couldn't gap close across the field. I'm pretty sure there was no marching drills research that whole time. It definitely didn't feel like it. Like those lads were moving slow. Like genuinely, either if they had marching drills and they added a little extra layer of armor to slow them down, or they just didn't have it at all. Either way, it felt impossible for VortiX to keep up the pressure. LucifroN with a phenomenal win there.